All right, so I try to avoid this because I like the story more than the stats, but I'm going to stop, little interlude, sidebar here. These are the stats, okay? As Jimmy accurately said, measurables and results. So, measurables and results. After a lot of thought, these are the 5 characteristics, the 5 measurements that I think are how you measure a hockey model, or a football model, or a basketball model, or a volleyball model, okay? If you use the word model, this is how you measure your hockey model. Most important, how many kids play the game? How many are good? How many aren't good? Okay, how many Coy Periches? How many Mike Snees? We all matter. It's just about playing the game when you grow up. A, B, or C player, that's the number 1 stat. But you do want to push out some good players. You want your model to do well, have some Coy Periches there. So quality of players. What does it cost a family to sign their kid up to play hockey? The financial cost. What are the other costs? How long is the season? Do you have to travel far? What is the wear and tear on the rest of your family? What's the wear and tear on your marriage? So all of the non-financial costs. And then hard to measure, but how meaningful and inspirational is it? We all know how meaningful and inspirational high school football is. Okay? How meaningful and inspirational is that hockey model? All right, so fire through these stats right here. I don't generally just like to read the slide, but I love these stats. They're so powerful. They are the measurables. They are the results. You can't deny it. These are just facts. You can't spin it. Minnesota's a small state. It's one of 50 states, obviously, but only one of 59 people in the United States are from Minnesota. Only one of 59 people in the U.S. are from Minnesota. The other states that play hockey well are a lot bigger than Minnesota. A lot more people, okay? But even though 1 out of 59 are from Minnesota, 1 out of 9.5 people that play hockey in our country are from Minnesota. Of those men that move on to Division I hockey, 1 out of 5. Of those that move on to the NHL, 1 out of 4.5. Of women that play NCAA Division I hockey, 1 out of 3. And of all of the Americans last year in the PWHL, 1 out of 2.7. 1 out of 2.7 were women from Minnesota. So 1 out of 59 women in the country are from Minnesota. 1 out of 2.7 women in the PWHL are from Minnesota. So if we want to measure things, Minnesota either is crushing it or over-crushing it. Over-indexing is what Minnesota does. 2 most recent numbers for you. NHL started on Tuesday. 41 Minnesotans on opening day NHL rosters, second most ever. 41 Minnesotans. How many of those Minnesotans played high school hockey, do you think? Bruce, how many do you think played high school hockey?
38.
You're on social media, aren't you?
No.
Because you're exactly right. Okay. 38 of 41 played high school hockey. One of the 3 that didn't is Brock Faber, because he went right from Bantam to the NTDP. So you can almost count him, because if he hadn't gone to the NTDP, he would have played high school hockey. Okay? All right, so how about this one? 38 players played high school hockey. How many different high schools? Goldie, how many different high schools? 38 players on...
35.
Usually people say 15. Come on. 26. 26. Okay. 26 different high schools in the state of Minnesota have a player on NHL opening day rosters. Even better, men's college hockey started last weekend. When I started with College Hockey Inc. 12 years ago, and we were doing these measurables, okay, Minnesota was tied with Massachusetts, both at 185, when I started 12 years ago. Minnesota has climbed every single year since. They grew by 16 players last year, so there's 16 more men on NCAA Division I rosters this year than last year, for a total now of 249. 249. Not part of this presentation, but good to know, good to think about, something to look into, maybe my next presentation. Massachusetts, about 30 years ago, used to look almost identical to Minnesota. Municipal community youth programs, high school hockey, municipally owned rinks. They had a little more prep school, a little more like Catholic school, but it looked a lot like Minnesota. Okay? Then they got out of the rink business, and rinks went from publicly owned in 1989 to privately owned 35 years later, okay? So 12 years ago, 185 Minnesotans in college hockey, 185 Massachusetts players. Now Minnesota's 249. How many do you think Massachusetts has? And also, important to know, 11 Division I programs in Massachusetts, 6 in Minnesota. So third goalies tend to come from the area, okay? Fifth lines tend to come from the area. There's double the number of D1 rosters in Massachusetts and Minnesota. So little side note, makes the story even better. Okay, 249 Minnesotans. Any guesses on how many Massachusetts players? Not ripping on Massachusetts, learning from Massachusetts.